folks. Welcome back to the Living in Tacoma channel. Phil Walsh, licensed real estate broker with Skyline Properties here, along with
Addie Net, your money guy, licensed mortgage advisor, always having your back.
So here we are, guys, some free advice and free information. And for me, this is one of the most important things you need to know. Here are some negative reasons. Here are some no-goes or reasons why not to move to Tacoma. We're not a doom and gloom channel. We're not a glasses half empty kind of people or channel. But we want to give you this advice. If I was moving, I'd like to know the pros, the cons, the yays, the nays, the districts, the areas not to go to, and all that kind of stuff. So let's dial straight into it. So for me, number one, the homeless population has increased in Tacoma over the past 3 years by about 40%. It's not prevalent across the whole of Tacoma like most cities. It's specifically sort of South Tacoma, Central Tacoma in some of these areas. But it is, if you watch some of our other videos compared to, say, Puyallup, it is a lot more prevalent. They do get a lot more aggressive. Now, some of the family-friendly places like Ruston Point and Point Defiance Park, you won't see it at all. They kind of get moved on and shepherded out of the place. Now, while the city council is doing their best to relocate them and try and find shelters for them, etc., when you drive around, certain areas, certain neighborhoods, you remember if you were driving a year ago that it's not an explosion, but it has increased, so you have to be aware of that.
Yeah. No, I like what you're saying. And I grew up in Portland, so I'm used to a Portland unhoused environment, of which is significantly worse. One of the unique things about the more Tacoma and northern areas is the streets are actually designed with more on-ramps and off-ramps versus You're looking at the Portland area, it's all flat and there's not really any structure or bridges to house underneath. So it's visually more impacting negatively in the Portland area compared to the Tacoma. But I would also like to say most major cities, and I travel a lot, most major cities were impacted by the pandemic. So the city concern teams that go in and manage the unhoused and their transitional programs was completely non-existent due to being city workers. They just weren't active. So now we're starting to see things revitalized, reorganized, and at least light at the end of the tunnel. But it is something to note, and we like to be honest. You don't call us for the pep talk. Anyone can give a pep talk, but the things to be aware so that Phil can navigate you through the proper place.
And that's one of the things. Like I said, we're brutally honest to the point of we're not a doom and gloom channel. I'll say that again. We're just here to give you free advice, do's and don'ts about where you're thinking of relocating, so you can have a clearer picture. We dial in on what you're looking for. So stay away from South Tacoma, stay away from Hilltop, stay away from whatever it is. You want to be rest assured that we have you, our number one, the number one client in mind, that we have your back when relocated.
Yeah.
Okay. So that leads us on to the price points of Tacoma. Now, the average price point is around $440,000, depending location, size of the house, number of bedrooms, etc. Now, that is kind of pricey. The average across the U.S. is about $350,000. So you can call us maybe, between $75,000 to $100,000 higher than the national average. Now, just a cheeky wee half-glass thing in there, average home prices in Seattle start at $775,000. So bit of negative, bit of positive there. But Tacoma is average around $440,000. And one of the things about Tacoma, there's a lot of older homes down there. Not a lot more new construction is going on. It's a very grid-like reference city, like a lot of places. But with the footprint of Tacoma itself and everything that got built down there, the new construction is kind of further afield when you're moving to places like Puyallup or Graham, Lacey, Tumwater, which is south of JBLM. So house prices, you can still get a good price at about the $400,000 mark. Excuse me, but be aware, if you look at the national average, Tacoma is higher than that.
Right. It's all relative to what you're coming from, right? So if we've got people that come out from the Bay Area, they're remote work, they're looking for a place to live with a lower cost of living, these prices seem really, really affordable and a huge lifestyle game change. But different states have more affordable houses, so perspective and where you're coming from.
Everything's relative to where you live, where you're coming from. Everything is relative. But again, we'd be remiss not to think about it. You get a lot more bang for your buck than you do in Seattle.
Right.
But if you lived, I don't know, maybe somewhere down in Arizona or, in other parts of the country, not California,
Right.
you might get more bang for your buck down there. So
There's
that's what
no
I'm saying.
150 house options.
no.
There's none of that going on.
Just be aware, like I said, average home price, the medium, is around that $440,000 mark. Doesn't mean there aren't great deals out there, but just to give you a heads up, okay?
Good point.
Another one of the negative factors that we think about Tacoma is that traffic sucks. And I'm sorry, but everywhere you are, traffic sucks. I used to live in the Caribbean on the beach. I was there for 12 years. I used to live on a Greek island. So trust me, I got married and relocated 8 years ago. So I know about when traffic sucks. Now, I-5 construction, which basically I-5 goes from Canada down to Mexico, all the way down, okay? Bisects goes right through Tacoma, past JBLM and down. Construction started on I-5 in 2001. 2001, you could go to Blockbusters. Remember Blockbuster? You go get a video? Blockbusters 2001, I kid you not. And it's ongoing ever since. On a weekends, if you're going down to Port Defiance and Ruston that way, traffic is backing up. We're an older town,
Right.
and obviously back in the day, and it's common sense, it wasn't built for the high volume of traffic that we have now. But it's like every major city, right?
Exactly.
So beware of that. And just as a reference point, Auburn is about 15 miles to the east. I've got a buddy who lives in Tacoma, works in Auburn in King County, 15 miles, okay? Awesome. We've got about a 15-minute commute time, right? 30 to 35 minutes on a good day.
On a good day.
14 miles. That just gives you some sort of reference points. And that's either taking the back roads or, going 512 and 167. So be aware, traffic is busy up here.
Well, just to give an example, this is why it's so important to book with us. That initial Zoom call, you got to give us a text, give us an email, however it be, schedule with us, because Phil and I spend a massive amount of time getting to know you as a family or a person and identifying what your Monday through Sunday is going to look like. Are you commuting into an office? Because would Auburn work or not? Would Tacoma work or not? Are you remote work? Because if you're remote work and just got to go downstairs to the living room and log on to Zoom, that's a totally different span of options for you. So just wanted to jump in because that's huge.
No, it's a massive point when finding that location.
Yeah.
If you've got to add an hour to your day for commute, you know what I mean, or 2 hours a day, 14 hours a week, it takes away from that family time. It takes away from your personal time. So another huge factor is, hey, Phil, I love this location. I'm going to, live in A, but I work in B. What's the average commute time? We're on the ground. We've got your back. I'll tell you exactly good or bad.
Yeah.
And that's what the scoop with that is, okay? So let's move on to the next one. So crime.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, and I'm talking sort of during the 80s and 90s, I wouldn't say affectionately, Tacoma was known as Tacompton, as in Compton, California. It was kind of bad. It's improved a lot since then, but would be remiss to mention about crime. But as you know, it's in every major city and stuff, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what's challenging about crime is the fact that it's impossible to turn on any local news and not see a negative headliner or a title, right? Like, unfortunately, local news on the internet or on the TV is always negative, and then that gets perceived as everywhere. But it does come back to, and I'm not trying to be cliche, location. And that's why boots on the ground, people that are going to shoot it to you straight is very important. But it's turned around and it's gotten a lot better. And I think there's a lot of upside, but there are areas that we're just not going to let you buy at. Like, quick pro tip, if you see an abnormally low priced home on Redfin or Zillow, there's a reason for it.
There's a reason. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science.
Right.
You're still on. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science. So listen, give us a heads up. Niche.com, neighborhoodscout.com. 2 websites which are really good, up to date, accurate. So you can actually look at the crime statistics. Niche.com, neighborhoodscout.com. Pop in there and take a look. So just to assuage any fears. Again, we're not painting a bad picture, but we're just giving you information of, crime is up there like any major city, but the city is cleaning its act up. And it's a negative because it's crime, but it's not prevalent to the fact of, holy moly, don't move to Tacoma. but would be remiss not to mention it, okay?
I think, not to run too long on that, the major areas that are a part of your lifestyle, the shopping, the entertainment, and the weekend activities are all very well managed by the city. You're not looking over your shoulder every 2 minutes. You're not scared to bring your kids or the wife down, and that's important. So I'll end on that for the section. I think that's good to know.
No, I agree with you 100%.
There's different cities where, like, I don't feel comfortable going downtown, right, or to the entertainment spots because, like, of my safety. You know?
You send me a house, and as Addie said, right? You send me a house, Phil. Holy moly, this is a steal, $300,000 when the average median is $440. I'm gonna go. We ain't going down there, and here's the reason why.
Right.
Get somebody on the ground who's got your back, who knows the areas and locale, okay, of all these places. Now we're moving on to the next one.
Yep.
And again, some of these aspects are mentioned in other videos as well, but we're trying to cover all bases on all areas with all video titles. Weed is legal in Washington State. Okay, marijuana is legal. You got to be 21 and older to purchase it, and even to enter these stores. So just like a bar or a nightclub, you can be 16, I think, if you want to go into a pub with your parents and have lunch. But stores, you have to be 21. It's legal up here. If this doesn't float your boat, if this isn't your cup of tea, be aware. It's legal. It's prevalent. Weed shops are popping up more and more, and it is what it is.
But it's not like you go to a park and someone's blowing weed smoke in your face.
No. Like I said, I think they're very strict on, although it's legal, these family-friendly parks. It's like you won't find it down in Port Defiance Spot, where all other families are. Right. It's very well taken care of. But if this is a no-no for you,
right,
we need to find the right location whereby, hey, let's steer you away from one of these areas where there's a weed shop on a corner or et cetera, et cetera. There's not a lot of crime associated with this. So don't get me wrong. It's not like the hardcore drugs and stuff like that. And whether it be medicinal or recreational, there's not a lot of crime stats sort of out there associated with this weed, but marijuana is legal.
It's something to know, and then at the same time, like it brings in a massive amount of tax revenue for the counties. Like, unbelievable. It goes back to education, goes back to road maintenance, creates jobs for everybody. That tax revenue brings a ton of money.
Oh, it brings a huge ton of money into.
But if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
But it does. It brings a lot of stuff in. Nightlife. For me, and I've lived all over the world in major cities, other countries, etc., etc. The nightlife, I think, and again, these are personal, humble opinions. This is just us chatting about our experiences of living and, being in and around Tacoma. Nightlife isn't that great. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a plethora of places. I don't think there's like you can go to, a club every weekend for the next 2 months and there'll be a different club.
Right.
So for me, on a personal experience, then although there's some great bars out there, don't get me wrong, like Kenny City, out there, Tacoma is about 220,000 population. There's not a lot of nightlife out there. So Seattle's 45 minutes, but you got to drive. There's no saunas at 3 a.m. to come back down. If you're, the young up and coming hipsters type deal, and the nightlife is if you haven't got the family yet, and that's a huge part of it, then that's something to look into as well. Like I said, so for me, I'm putting nightlife in there as a con. Not knocking the places that we have,
right?
Because they're great. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I've lived and traveled all over the world, and for me, I'm definitely putting that as one of the, it's not so great. Let's just put it like that.
That's a good point, because if you're like single and not married, no kids, and you're living in Tacoma and you're wanting to go to a Sounders game and then go out to the bars and then maybe to a club, like, you might save a lot on the home, but you're not gonna be able to get home is the problem. So it might be one of those things where you strategically book a hotel in downtown Seattle and then just have fun, have a safe place to go, and then take the Sounder back. But I love that you brought that up. It's a big deal for some people.
No, like 100%. So the next thing for me, which is a little bit of a no-no or a negative, is the public transport. Now, although you have the Tacoma Rail and then you can get the Sounder up to Seattle, and there's the new light rail system getting built, which will be finished in 2035.
Oh, that's a ways away.
Yeah, listen, I kid you not. For me, most people have cars now, don't get me wrong, but if you have to rely on public transport to get from A to B or to get around Tacoma, I'm just putting that as a con. I'm not going to go into great detail, but be aware maybe unlike where you're currently living, you can hop on the bus and hop off the bus, or hop on the train and hop off the train, and they run 24/7 for you. We mentioned if you want to go to a Seahawks game, go to a club in Seattle, and then, well, how do I get home? Well, you got to drive or book a hotel. So for me, that public transport system kind of isn't the greatest in Tacoma, right?
Yeah, they're not heavy on the buses. The bus thing just isn't the deal. It's the sounder or driving. There's something to be aware of. Some people really like that. And you're not biking to everything. It's not a bike town, So something to be aware of. So that's a non-negotiable for some, but some people don't care.
So here's another one, and I'm actually, if you watched our other videos, I've put this in the pros and I've put this in the cons, so don't laugh, okay? What's the first thing that people mention when you're in the Washington state, Tacoma, let's call Tacoma, Seattle, close. What's the first thing they mention?
Rain.
What do you think? Oh, hang on a minute. Are you thinking about Microsoft? Are you thinking about Starbucks? What are you thinking about? It doesn't rain 24/7 here, people. It doesn't. It's not monsoon season. Okie dokie. Our average rainfall here in Tacoma is 39 inches. Now, would you believe me if I said to you that Miami and Houston have a higher average rainfall than we do? Correct. Check it out. I'll bet you $1. But they do. I would be... Listen, I'm serious about this.
I know you are.
It does rain, I would say frequently, but I would say it drizzles. Alrighty, it does drizzle quite a bit, but we don't have the deluge. We don't have that monsoon weather. We had June, July, August, September are really, really good summer months, and you do get the rain coming down. So I would say it drizzles a lot more rather than bucketing it down. For example, most people don't have a brolly up here. That's an umbrella, folks. A brolly. You know what I mean? There's no galoshes. There's no rain boots. You don't have, oh, holy moly, you've got to move to Washington State. You've got to swim to work. Nah. We have 4 seasons. They're all great. Let's just cut the myth out of it. It does rain, but it's not 24/7. So let's just cut to that chase, okay? So it drizzles quite a bit, and that's why I've put it in the pro and the con. You're not going to get 12 months of sun, but you're not gonna have to shovel out your driveway in the wintertime and swim to work and all that kind of stuff. So we have a great temperate climate, but it doesn't rain 24/7. And that's honestly one of the first questions we always get asked. Yeah. Does it rain every day up there like we've been told? No, it doesn't.
No, and I love that you brought up the umbrella thing, because no one carries one. They have shells and layers. It's a big thing because it's going to be gone before you even get the thing open. So you leave that. Save it for golfing, and a sunshade is probably used more for an umbrella than actual rain up here. But I would say what I experience a lot of people, and we're helping people relocate here from all over the country, particularly people that come from Southern California. First year or 2 years, they're super excited about the diversity of the weather. Oh yeah, this is great. I love it. About year 2 or 3, they do tend to struggle from the November to March kind of turn of the calendar, where they start missing a little. Seasonal depression is dramatic, but they're like, oh, hey. And I see a lot of my clients and people that we have relocated here book a holiday. They get on a vacation, say January.
Oh, really?
Go somewhere
just
warm.
to get out? Just to get out of there?
Oh,
they want the sun fix.
Yeah, they'll
again,
go
right?
down to Arizona for a 3-day weekend and get some sun, and that bridges them over till the spring starts again. So I've noticed that a lot. But if you are super sensitive to the weather, and there is some gloominess, but getting away is not hard to do.
And you go, I mean, for me, it's horses for courses, right? It's not as dramatic as everybody would think. Right. Also, it's not, sunshine 24/7 either. I personally think we have a happy medium. Right. I don't think there's anything wrong going for a hike in the Olympic National Parks, which are on your doorstep when it's raining. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We have our foliage. We're called the Evergreen State for a reason. Alrighty. So pros and cons. Yeah. It does rain a lot, but it's not monsoon season. It's not monsoon weather. You don't get a deluge every day. So just something to bear in mind about. Okay. Yep. And then don't forget. Jump on a Zoom call, jump on a FaceTime video call, give us a call, shoot us an email, shoot us a text. Let us know what you're looking for. We're here 24/7 for you. We've got your back. Doesn't matter what time, if you're relocating from the East Coast of the US or Europe or Asia. If your ability to talk to us is 2 o'clock in the morning because that's your time frame, the time difference between the East Coast, West Coast, Europe, and Asia, let us know. We'll get out of bed at 2 a.m. in the morning and have that call for you. And one of the best things is you can record that Zoom call. So if your partner's working or somebody has to take the kids to school, it's recordable, it's playable back, so everything is there for you. We're here. Relocating is a huge, stressful We're here just to take that out.
Yeah,
like our
reduce the
services,
stress.
our services are free to you. We're here to offer the best advice that we can give because they live here. If I was wanting to move here, I'd want these questions asked and answered themselves. And the other thing is, if you have a question, you think, yeah, I'm not going to ask that question. It's a little bit stupid. Every single question has been asked and answered, however silly you think it is. Trust me on that. We're here to answer everything for you. And like I said, they've been asked and we've answered them already. So don't be afraid to hit us up. So the last thing I'll just quickly say about one of the sort of negative things is that we have a 10.2% sales tax, and that's currently in place in Washington State at the moment. So, for example, if you're spending $100, you're actually spending $110.20. Some people are a little bit shocked about that. So that's one of the cons for me up here is the sales tax is 10.2%. Another of our videos will be going into more about sort of sales tax and all that, all of that kind of stuff, which is a bit of a boring video, not as glossy as some of these other ones, but it's a very, very important factor to know how long your budget is going to go, how much is milk, how much is bread, how much is gasoline, etc., etc. That will be in another video. But one of the cons for us up here and one of the negatives is the 10.2 sales tax up here in Washington State.
I would counter that with a positive and say the state of Washington does not have income tax. So if you're comparing it to Oregon that doesn't have sales, Oregon has a 6.99 up to 12.5% personal income tax, depending on which county you live in. So it's somewhat a wash.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'd be remiss again not to mention it, but again, there's certain things out here that balance themselves out. Like I said, if I was moving there, I would have these list of questions. I would want them answered. I would want to give informative, excellent advice for you guys relocating over here. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Guys, I appreciate your time. Phil Walsh, licensed real estate broker. See you later.